Hello and welcome. I'm Jamie Davidoff of Spark Success. Our mission is to empower leaders to increase their confidence, influence, and impact so that they and their teams can collaboratively create great results and positive impact. So today I want to talk about a leadership skill that can really be helpful towards that mission, which is, believe it or not, it's empathy. So empathy can be often quite misunderstood, and that's why I thought it would be important to explore it. Empathy is important at all times, and especially right now when there's so much going on that could trigger people emotionally. And as leaders, it's important for us to support our people in an appropriate way for work around processing those emotions. So I just want to share with you a quote from Brene Brown's book that she launched in 2018 called Dare to Lead. And this is the quote. Leaders must either invest a reasonable amount of time attending to fears and feelings or squander an unreasonable amount of time trying to manage ineffective and unproductive behavior. So this is why it's so important to be able to demonstrate empathy. And I want to share with you from that book and from the Dare to Lead curriculum. I'm a certified Dare to Lead facilitator. A 5-step way of thinking about empathy. So the first is called perspective taking. And that is the idea that we are listening to the other person, knowing that what they're sharing with us is their truth. It doesn't have to be our truth. We're just listening for them to share their truth. And the second part is we're listening in a non-judgmental way. We're listening just to hold the space for the other person and to understand what is going on for them. And as we're listening, we're actually listening for what emotions they might be experiencing. And for ourselves, trying to identify what that emotion might be. We may not have gone through the same experience as that person, but we certainly have gone through the same emotion that they might be experiencing. So then the fourth step is to actually be vulnerable enough to share what we think they might be feeling. And we don't need to be 100% correct. We are showing that we cared enough to listen, and we're trying to help them process. And what they're really processing when they bring this situation to you is their emotion. And so I will share an example of this in a moment. I'll go through this process with a scenario so you understand what that could look like. And then the fifth piece is mindfulness, which means not to get caught up or over-identify either in the person's story or their emotions or our own emotions around what's happening. So this whole skill of empathy is part of emotional intelligence. This kind of around the thread in emotional intelligence that starts with us understanding our own emotions, being able to express our own emotions appropriately, but then also helping others do the same, and that is empathy. So let's look at a scenario here. So I'm going to pretend I'm a leader, and one of my reports is Joe. And Joe's coming to me to express something around a current situation. So Joe's coming to me and he's saying, I'd like to talk to you about the fact that I didn't get a raise. And so Joe's saying, I really thought I deserved that raise. I was really counting on it. And I'm just listening, and I'm listening and going, wow, I wonder what Joe's emotion is right now. To me, it sounds like he's very disappointed. So then I would say, Joe, I hear you, and it sounds like you're feeling very disappointed. And he might go, yeah, I'm really disappointed. Or he might go, no, but you know what? I'm really surprised and I don't understand. So he knows that you've listened to him, you've heard him, and you have tried to figure out what's going on for him. And that really is valuable. That's a very respectful and helps people feel acknowledged and heard. It helps them identify exactly what they're feeling as well. And then that fifth piece, mindfulness, is to not get caught up in this. So, Joe might respond and go, Yeah, that is how I'm feeling. You know, I appreciate you hearing me out and helping me process this. You know, it's likely that he might want to know what happened. And so at that point, I have a number of options as a leader. I could share specifically why not. Or I could say, you know, I'd love to talk with you more about this, and let's set up a specific time to do that. If I'm not ready to have that conversation, right? That I want to have a thoughtful conversation around that. And I might have been caught off guard by Joe coming to me with this information. Or I might be able to say, look, Joe, I really wanted to be able to give you a raise right now, but we just don't have the budget for that. You know, I can keep you posted as things change. How is that for you? Or I could say, you know, Joe, I really would like to be able to give you a raise, and there's some things that I think we could work on so that you could work towards earning that raise. So, and again, that might lead into a second conversation. And I'm sure there's many other alternatives, but I just wanted to share a couple for this example. The main thing here is that Joe has not kept this to himself. Joe has been able to process this. We've had an honest, open conversation about it. He feels heard and respected, and he's not stuck in potentially resentment or disappointment, maybe even in himself, that he doesn't know what's going on and he's making up a story that's negative about himself. He could be mad at me or the organization. In any case, it's not productive. Whereas when he can have that open conversation, he can go, okay, you know, my boss gets it, and we're going to work towards this. And so that's a much different feeling and much more engaging. And I can now, as Joe, move forward productively. So this is such an important skill. And it, you know, there's some misunderstanding about what empathy is. And I've had people say when I'm in workshops, working with people around this skill, going, man, if I do this, I'm going to have people lining up outside my office. Because before they know what empathy really is, they start thinking about it as almost like counseling, or having to listen to a big long story that they don't feel equipped to deal with. But when they have this empathy skill and they work on building it, then they start feeling more comfortable, and it actually creates more engagement with their people. So one thing to remember about empathy skills is we're going to mess it up sometimes. It's not perfect. Sometimes we might feel triggered at the time, and it's hard for us to access our empathy. Sometimes we might be busy and we just didn't take the time to listen to the person. Many different things can come up, but we can also always circle back with that person and say, hey, I think you were trying to tell me something there, and I was distracted and I wasn't present. I'd like to have a further conversation with you about that. So that gives you an idea about what empathy means. I hope that's been helpful, and I'd love to hear about your thoughts on empathy, how you practice it, or how you might develop it even further. And so if you're open to it, I'd love for you to share your comments in the box below this video, or reach out to me if you want to have a complimentary conversation about it. A complimentary half-hour conversation. If you want to do that, please just email me. I'm at Jamie@SparkSuccess. That's JAMIE at SparkSuccess.com. And you can always look at my website too. It's sparksuccess.com, and see what other services we provide. We provide executive and leadership coaching, leadership development programs, and organizational culture consulting. So I would love to hear from you, and thank you for listening. And the next topic I'm going to be sharing on is self-compassion, which is empathy for ourselves. So when we can have empathy for ourselves in a productive and positive way, and again, there's some misconceptions around what self-compassion is. So please listen in on that to see what that is, because when we can do that, we actually can be more productive and engaged ourselves. But we can also be there to be empathetic for others in a bigger, more easier way. Thanks so much. We'll see you soon.